Hey guys, Foxdrop here with a video on jungle Yasuo, my opinions on jungle Yasuo. Now the last video of this kind that I did was on the new jungle items, and that seemed to go down kind of well, so I thought I'd do another one on Yasuo jungle. And I actually spent a lot of his release day spamming him to get a good commentary, and I couldn't really get one. I played a lot of games with him on the PBE, and I've played maybe a dozen or so games of him, so I think I'm in a decent position to give my opinion on him. I'm not a veteran player obviously, but I think as far as it goes, considering how recently he was released, I feel like I'm in a good position, like I say, to give my opinion. Now these are just my opinion for the jungle, and these don't reflect his ability as a laner. So what I found in the jungle, firstly, I want to talk about his positives, the upsides to him. Now, he has a shield on his passive, which is really good. Shields are nice for, they make up for any sustain issues you might have. So what, you don't need lifesteal to heal yourself back up when you're not taking damage because you've got a shield. So that's pretty cool. He's resourceless, which means that he's always jungling at 100% efficiency. He doesn't need to worry about whether he's running out of mana or anything like that. He can just spam his abilities and not be crippled when it comes to like a lane or fighting because he's run out of mana. He's fine for that sense. And lastly, his Q is spammable. So usually champions who have low cooldowns in the jungle clear pretty quickly. Either that or they have a high basic attack amplification or basic attack damage. But low cooldowns usually mean a pretty fast jungle clear. So Yasuo's clear is actually pretty good and he can spam his Q like I said. Now unfortunately those are really the only positives that I found with jungle Yasuo, and in my opinion he's fairly flawed and I don't really like him as a jungler. Now, first reason why I don't really like it, and this is pretty minor, this is more like a, maybe you could argue this is more of a peeve than the actual downside, but his Q is automatically set to smart cast, very much like a Karthus Q is. And I would like to be able to normal cast his Q so I could see how it lines up against the jungle minions so that I could hit as many creatures as possible to make me clear as quick as possible. But you can't do that, and there's no way to toggle that off either. So it feels, and it's not an overly wide range either, so you have to be very careful with how you use it, and it just feels a bit awkward in my opinion. But that's a very minor point, I guess you could say. A bigger problem is his whole role. Yasuo is an assassin. He is not, a bruiser or a utility tank or anything like that. Yasuo has very little utility, almost zero utility. Think of someone like Master Yi. Yasuo and Master Yi have pretty much the same utility. It's not, he just doesn't bring too much to the field as far as CC goes or anything like that. So to that regard, he doesn't work as a tank. Tanks are only useful when they have, like I say, CC or something like that. Compare, like Maokai, Skarner, those kind of people who do build tanky, who don't just go glass cannon. They're useful because they have CC, they have snares, they can catch people out of position and things like that. Yasuo doesn't have anything like that, which means that you have to build him with damage. If you're not building him with damage, you're wasting a lot of potential. Not only are you wasting potential, but you're actually getting nothing from it because people will ignore you. There's nothing, he provides no threat. If he doesn't do any damage, that Yasuo doesn't provide a threat really, unless he's really far ahead. So you have to build him as an assassin, as glass cannon, and those kind of champions don't really fit in the jungle too well. Usually tanks are better off, and the biggest reason for this is because of the gold income. Junglers don't get as much gold by jungling as a laner would. If you stuck Yasuo in mid lane or top lane or wherever, he would get much more gold than if he were in the jungle. Now Preseason 4 has changed this slightly so that you do get more gold as a jungler, especially compared to Season 3, Season 2, but it's still not the same thing. If you're a laner, you would still get more gold. So Yasuo does kind of suffer in that regard. And also, junglers, assassins, they need to snowball. They need to be ahead in levels, and junglers are very rarely ahead in levels unless they get snowballing in the lane phase, and it's kind of difficult for Yasuo to snowball in the lane phase with no utility and no items. He also doesn't make too much use out of the Spirit Stone items, out of the jungle items, so again, he's not really built in the jungle in that regard. He doesn't get too much benefit from it, and also that means that his gold income again is kind of limited if he's not getting use out of that jungle item. There's no point just buying it to get more gold, because then it feels like a bit of a waste. He also doesn't have ignite either. Now this may seem like a minor point, but assassins without ignite aren't really as scary. Ignite really gives you like a foot up, I guess you could say, in fights and in duels and stuff. But Yasuo doesn't have that because he has to have smite if he's jungling. So he could be using that ignite to get kills and to snowball and stuff like that and be more scary. He doesn't have that. Now the next biggest point, and excuse me, these are the biggest points in my opinion. It's the problems with his ultimate. Now, his ultimate is, in my opinion, for jungle Yasuo is, I'm just going to say it's probably one of the worst ultimates in the game for a jungler, in my personal opinion. There are two big reasons why I think this. The first, the first reason is an issue with the activation of the ultimate. If you don't know, Yasuo's ultimate is, it's like a mini vial, but it requires someone to be knocked out before you can use it. It requires someone to be airborne before you can actually even use your ultimate on them. Yasuo can knock someone airborne himself if he hits his Q 3 times in a row. You hit it once, you hit it twice, and on that third hit, you knock loads of people up in a cone. Or in a straight line, sorry, it's not really a cone. This doesn't work for a jungler. The first reason why this doesn't work is you can't charge this Q on jungle creeps. You can't hit something twice and then go to lane and then your third hit will be a knock up. That doesn't work because your stacks don't last long enough. So they run out before you get to lane. So that's out of the question. You can't do that. The second reason, you can't do it on the lane minions either. Now, in theory, you could do it on the lane minions, but what tends to happen when you're ganking as a jungler is people tend to run away from you. They tend to think, oh look, someone's coming to gank us, we better run away and hide under our tower. They don't tend to stand around and be like, oh look, there's a jungler, maybe he's just come for a nice conversation and a cup of tea. No, that doesn't really tend to happen. And Yasuo can't just say, oh, just hold on a minute guys, I'm just charging my Q, don't go anywhere, I need my knock up before I can do anything to you. Just hold on, okay good, we're good to go, right, let's go. Nope. That doesn't happen. So I know it's surprising, but no, that doesn't happen. People run away from you when you go into the gank, so you can't charge your Q up on the lane minions. And it requires like 10 seconds of, like, the cooldown on your Q itself requires like 10 seconds anyway before you can even get that third Q. So it wouldn't work. It just doesn't work that way. Which really, what that means is you then rely on synergy with other champions. So you don't have to use your ultimate, because your ultimate obviously only usable on people who are airborne. You can use it on enemies that have been airborne from other people, so from your allies. So say like an Alistair Q, Janna Q, but it also works on a lot of things. So I know Tristana ultimate and even Quinn's E was proccing my ulti, but these things last for split seconds. They don't last for very long, so you have to have very, very good coordination and cooperation, communication, the 3 C's with your allies in order to get this off. And in solo queue, that's not going to happen. Unless you've got godlike Korean reactions, you're not going to be able to use your ult with these things. It's going to be very hard for you to do so. What this means is a lot of champions have complements with ultimate. So say for example Shyvana and Orianna, they complement each other very, very nicely. Shyvana and Ori sticks her ball on Shyvana, and Shyvana goes in dragon form, jumps into the middle of the enemy team, and then Orianna uses her shockwave. And it's a really nice one-by combo, great synergy. They complement each other very well. However, the difference there is the wording. Complement each other, not relies on each other. Yasuo would rely on other champions in order to get his ult off. It's not a complement, it's not a synergy, he's relying on them. And that's not good. You don't want to be relying on other champions. There's no need for you to do that. You want to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. And anytime you're relying on allies, especially in solo queue, that's not good. You don't want to be doing that. You want to be doing that as least as possible. So that's not good. And to be perfectly honest, it felt as though I was going through the lane phase without an ultimate, because I just couldn't proc it on people. You can't engage with your ulti because you need this kind of like requirement before you can even use it. It was really, really awkward. Now for lane Yasuo, I don't see this being a problem because you can charge your Q on minions and then just use your Q with the whirlwind, hit the person and then engage on your ult, and that's fine. But for jungle Yasuo, when you're ganking and roaming, it was difficult. Really, really difficult in my opinion. Now, the second problem with this ultimate is the use of the steroid. Now, in my opinion, this ultimate, in theory, like the whole concept, is kind of flawed, in my personal opinion, especially for jungle Yasuo. Now, this is a flawed concept, like I say, unless you can charge your Q on minions. Like, if you're a lane Yasuo, then this doesn't really, this isn't a problem, I don't think. But the reason why I think this is a flawed concept, especially if you can't charge it on minions, is because steroids are things you want at the beginning of a fight, at the start of a fight. If you think of someone like Nocturne or Olaf, Nocturne will tag someone with his Q and immediately he has a huge AD steroid, so he beats the crap out of someone to begin the fight. Olaf pops his ultimate, pops his W, that's 2 steroids he gets there. He becomes extremely threatening when he has that ult on. You have to deal with him immediately at the beginning of a fight, because steroids in these examples are things which happen right at the beginning. But with Yasuo, if you have to hit your Q 3 times before you can even use your ulti and get that steroid, then that's like 10 seconds into a fight before you can even use your ult and get used to your steroid. Your steroid lasts for 15 seconds. It lasts for ages, which means that's really good for just an engaged fight. But if you have to wait that long before you can even use it, 10 seconds for an assassin is a long time. Fights don't usually last 10 seconds when you're playing an assassin. Either you have so much damage that you just instantly kill someone, or you're so squishy that you just die in that time. So you don't want your steroid to be delayed that long. It doesn't seem like a good concept in my opinion. And like I say, with the problem with the activations, like I was previously talking about, this is why I think it's a problem with jungle Yasuo. Now I like to compare Yasuo's ulti with a Vial. Like I said, I kind of briefly mentioned this earlier. Vial does more damage than Yasuo's ultimate. Flat out, just does more damage. Yasuo can do AoE if multiple targets are knocked up, but that is very, very unreliable. Vi's also does AoE if she knocks people out of the way while she's heading towards her main target. But Yasuo's ulti requires this knock-up before you can even use it. Vi doesn't have any kind of requirement like that. Vi can use it whenever she wants to engage. Yasuo can't. So that means that Vi, like what I was saying about engaging just there, Vi can use her ult as an engage. Yasuo can't engage with someone. You see someone out of position on Vi, you ult them, and that can be a teamfight one in itself. If you're playing Yasuo, however, you see someone out of position, you can't do anything. You can't engage with your ulti. So that means you have to follow up with your ulti, and if you're following up with your ulti, chances are that the team fight is already started and it's already going on. And if the team fight is already going on, like I say before, then that means that you're like into that fight. You're a certain period of time into that fight, meaning that you're getting not as much use out of the steroid as you could be if you were using it to engage. If you could use it at the beginning of the fight. You can't use that ult to catch people, you can only use it to follow up, which I don't think is nice. Like, I think if you're going to have an ultimate like that, it's really good for you to be able to use it as an engage. Especially as a jungler, who often their role is to just engage in team fights and stuff like that. So it's kind of awkward in that sense. In fact, it's kind of really awkward. It really changes the dynamics of the whole, the use of that ulti. Now, this can be useful as follow-up if you do have something which can knock people up. Because then if you do have someone who engages with knock-ups, so say for example even Vi, if she's knocking someone up, and then if you've got Vi like top lane or something, and then your jungle Yasuo, someone gets knocked up, and then you instantly use your ult alongside them, that's cool. I mean, then you can engage like that. But again, this brings me back to a point I was saying earlier, when you are relying on someone else to make you useful in that regard. It's not just a synergy, it's almost you're relying on that person, and that's what I don't like. It feels like a lot of Yasuo with his ultimate is just it's just clunky, and when it works well, it feels as though it's not you, it's someone else that's making it work well. It's not you that's getting this benefit, it's someone else giving you that benefit. And I don't like that whole kind of feeling. That's basically my whole point, my whole feelings towards jungle Yasuo. That's kind of what I felt like. I just didn't really like playing him overall too much. I felt like it was a bit too hard to snowball on him because he didn't have too much utility, and without items he doesn't really feel like he does a lot of damage. And the biggest problem just really with his ult. I mean, it really did feel like I didn't even have an ult when I was playing in the lane phase. But anyway, these are just my opinions on jungle Yasuo. I've been talking for a fair time, so I apologise for that. Thanks very much for watching, guys. As always, you can check me out on my Facebook and my Twitter and all my social media and stuff like that. Catch me streaming on Twitch too. But thanks very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in my next video.